Hey guys, it's George again. Okay, so in this video, I just wanted to quickly show you guys the multiplications table from 1 to 12, just so you guys can understand how this multiplication table works. I'm sure there's lots of teachers in your schools that want you guys to memorize this table, but which I think it's definitely a good idea to memorize it, but at the same time, I feel like if you understand how it works, it'll be much easier to memorize in the long run. So I have a multiplication table from 1 to 12 here. This is the basic multiplication table that anybody, I guess, should know. You'll definitely see this in your math books because it's pretty common to know the multiplication table from 1 to 12. Okay, so if you take a look at it, over here on the left side, I've listed multiples from 1 all the way to 12. And so for example, let's say we look at the multiples of 1. So 1 times 1 in this box gives you 1. 1 times 2 will go in this box. See that? So each row or column refers to a multiplication, refers to a multiple of a certain number. So these are the multiples of 1 going across. We're also going vertically here as well. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, etc. to 12. Alright, and same going vertically and also going horizontally, so you can see that I have them listed two ways here. Okay, so if you look at the ones multiplication table, when you multiply 1 by any number, see, it'll obviously increase by 1. So 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3. And when you go to 1 times 12, you get 12. So when you multiply any number by 1, basically, the answer would be the number itself. See? It's kind of like listing 1 to 12 in this case here going across. So the 2's, again, these are the multiples of 2, multiples of 3 like this, 4, and have all of them up to 12. Now, one way to understand how this table works is it's kind of like skip counting. So if you look at the multiples of 1, you start from 1, and you're skip counting, you start from the value, so the multiples of 1, so you start with 1 itself, and you'll be skip counting by 1, basically. You're counting up by 1, so 1 times 1 is 1, then 2, then 3, so you're going up by 1 from for each one as you go across. And same if you go vertically for the multiples of 1. For 2's, you start with the number 2 itself, and you're going to skip count by 2, so you're going to increase by 2's. Eventually, you'll get to 24 when you do 2 times 12. So for 3's, you start with 3, multiples of 3 start with 3, and you'll go up by 3 each time, skip counting by 3. For 4's, you start at 4, you skip count by 4. You'll notice that for 5, same thing. So you start with 5 and you skip count by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way to 12, which would give you 60. So when you skip count 12 times, you get 60. Same with 6. You start at 6, you skip count up by 6. 7, you start with 7 and you increase by 7 for each number here in the table. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. See, 10's you go up by 10, 20, 30, 40. As you multiply it by 1, then 2, then 3, etc. So that's kind of the pattern you'll notice in this multiplication table. These numbers are not random, alright? And I don't want you guys to just blindly memorize this table, but you'll notice that it's much easier to memorize this table when you actually understand the patterns behind it. Okay? So multiplication is basically like skip counting, the multiplication table. If you know how to skip count, I think you should be able to know how to remember this table without actually, while understanding it, making it easier for you to remember. Okay? So, you can use this table as reference if you want, but I'm sure you probably have this table in your math textbooks at school, and definitely comes in handy to remember this table when you're doing a lot of multiplications, quick mental multiplication in your head. So it's very important to remember this table. Okay, but keep in mind that the easiest way to remember it is by skip counting. Alright, so that's kind of all I wanted to show you with this video. And just introduce you to the multiplication table because I think it'll come in handy, especially when I introduce you to long division and long multiplication. It definitely will come in handy.